Continuing with our series of poetry analysis, today is about the figures of speech. In Arabic, we call it as-suwar al-bayaniya. In English, we call it figures of speech. Poetry is beautiful. In order to beautify poetry, we need music, rhythm, like we saw with the different pattern of rhythms, but also we need a beautiful language. To beautify language, an author shouldn't speak as ordinary people. He has to make his language different, particular, and attractive. So let's move through different figures of speech famous in English poetry. The easiest of all is called simile. A simile is the comparison between two things, an image borrowed to describe a thing. Burn, in his poem, describe his love as a red rose. So maybe from this comes the inspiration of lovers to offer or express their love through red roses. So his love is like a red rose, is a simile. It's the comparison of love with the rose, using something to relate between the two, compared to. Love is compared to red rose. Grammatically speaking, or syntactically speaking, or in terms of language use, we need words of comparison to compose a simile. A simile is the comparison composed of words of or elements of comparison, like as, then, than, similar to, seemingly. These words relating two similar things are composing in a whole simile. My love is like a red rose. He is courageous as a lion. He is taller, more beautiful than the sun, the sky. Impossible. So he is beautiful like a sun, or he is beautiful like the moon, for example. So this is the simile. So the second figure of speech is the metaphor. The metaphor is a simile. So why is it called metaphor? It is called metaphor because it's a simile without word of comparison. Since there is no element of comparison, it is no more a simile. It is a comparison without the word of comparison. For example, in the previous figure of speech simile, we said his love is like a red rose. In the metaphor, we say his love is a red rose. There is a comparison between two without word of comparison. He is courageous like a lion. In a metaphor, we say he is a lion, to mean bravery, courage, nice physics, handsome, whatever. Okay, so the metaphor is comparison without the word of comparison, not like the simile. It's comparison using elements of word of comparison. The third word of figure of speech is called personification. The personification is to attribute human qualities to non-human things, like, for example, we say the moon, when it is starting to compose in the sky, the moon is smiling, or the sea is smiling. The sea cannot smile. The moon cannot smile. Smiling is a quality which is purely human, but we attribute it to a thing in nature in order to express happiness, to express beauty of a thing. Okay, so sometimes you check the sky and you see the moon, you find it in its beginning in the curved form, so we say he is smiling, as if. So this attribution of a human quality to a thing in nature or not in nature is called a personification. In English poetry, we can speak about John Donne. John Donne is a famous metaphysical poet who is famous for a poem, a sonnet about death. So he personifies death. He say, die not, death. For example, John Donne, in his poem, he is speaking to death as if he was a person. So this is a personification. We have the apostrophe. The fourth figure of speech in this lesson is the apostrophe. The apostrophe is, in Arabic, there is a nice expression called البكاء على الأطلال. You go to a place where you remember things, you remember souvenirs, you remember a nostalgic moment, then you either recall happiness or sadness. It depends on the emotion and on the action or the event. But an apostrophe is to recall the dead persons, for example, in a place after a certain moment. For example, that's what happened to William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth, when wandering in London, he recalls John Milton. John Milton, a century before his existence, was John Milton, a famous Paradise Lost writer. Epic writer, and William Wordsworth said in a nice apostrophe about the recall of Milton. When he saw London with its new architecture and so on, he said, oh Milton, thou shouldst be living at this hour. Oh Milton, if you were living at this hour to see with me such moments I'm living. So the recall, this recall is called apostrophe as a figure of speech in English poetry. We have two other figures of speech which are so close together that it's a little bit difficult to differentiate between them unless you focus on the part and the whole. When there is a part and a whole, you either call it a metonymy or a synecdoche. A metonymy is to refer to a person, but not directly to him, but by something related to it. Like I read Shakespeare. When we say I read Shakespeare, you don't mean to read Shakespeare as a person, but you mean I read the books of Shakespeare. So this is called metonymy in English. We have the synecdoche. The synecdoche also is a reference to the whole using the part or vice versa. Like when you say, for example, bread. You speak about bread and you mean food. You don't mean only pieces of loaf, but you also mean food in general. In our Arabic culture, when we say I work for the bread, for bread to feed my family, means to provide life for my family. This bread in order to mean feeding your family and keeping it alive. So keeping them alive. This is a synecdoche in English poetry. We have also two other figures of speech which are contradictory in meaning and easy to detect since they are paradoxical. We have the hyperbole and the litote. The hyperbole is to exaggerate expressing something, like you love someone, you didn't see him, you just met him yesterday and you meet him the day after and you say, oh, it's since ages haven't seen you. And it was just yesterday that you saw him. So expressing a great or strong emotion may using hyperbole. My son is a genius and he has just got his baccalaureate, or he succeeds in a primary school exam. So he said, my son is a genius. So it is a hyperbole. You express a great emotion, strong emotion, through using hyperboles. The opposite of the hyperbole is the litote, and the use of the litote is very, very deceiving. For example, in a classroom, you may provide an excellent idea for your teacher and you expect compliment, award, and so on. Finally, when you say you raise your hand and you express your idea, the teacher said, not bad idea. Instead of saying excellent, great, the teacher said not bad an idea. So really, really, you are deceived at the use of simple words for something that you expect good and excellent. This is the litote, which is the the opposite of the hyperbole. The last, I can add other figures of speech like irony. And I remember our teachers used to teach us irony of places. It means that, for example, someone wants to live in a quiet place. So he bought his house and he sells his house and buys another one near to a place, to the forest, or to a place he thought it is silent. he installs there, and suddenly once a week there is a market there early morning, each early morning there. So at early morning the market is full of noises near to that place where he was supposed to find it quiet. So this deception at a place is irony of place. We have William Shakespeare. We have Charles Dickens. William Shakespeare wasn't ironic in some comedies. Yes, he was. But the author I meant, really you learn irony from him, is Charles Dickens. The Victorian writer Charles Dickens' novels are full of ironies and very humorous. That humor, which is Dickensian, is really worth teaching. We have the paradox, figures of speech. The paradox is the opposite. So you express something in order to mean another. For example, you said prison, but you mean freedom. When revolutionary people are imprisoned, they are bars cannot prison us. You can prison the body, but not the spirit or the soul. So this is a paradox. The use of paradox can be between life and death, can be between joy and happiness, can be between laughing and crying, and so on, in many examples of English poetry. We have the interrogation. The interrogation is a question mark put in a line of a poem, but the poet doesn't mean at all a question to ask, and no answer is expected to be provided, like How Do I Love Thee by the famous Elizabeth Barrett Browning in his sonnet, How Do I Love Thee? She is not speaking, she is not asking a question, she is expressing the way she loves Robert Browning in that famous, beautiful sonnet. All in all, we have the simile, the metaphor, the apostrophe, the personification, the interrogation, the paradox, the hyperbole, the irony, the hyperbole, the lithos, and the synecdoche and the metonymy are famous figures of speech in English poetry. Thank you.